joining us now also in the studio, our good friend with the Mississippi Highway Patrol. He's the director of the Public Affairs Division, Major Johnny Poulos. Major, thanks so much for coming in today. Always great to see you, sir, and have you on the program.
Oh, Gerard, thanks for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
You bet. So we just had a named storm, move through. Let's talk about that first, kind of what that means as far as mobilizing the state troopers and how you guys respond to that.
Well, then that's what we do. That's what we sign up for. And luckily, we didn't have to use all the resources that we have available. But if this is any indication of what we're going to be subjected to throughout the summer, well, here again, we need everybody to do their part in being prepared if we do actually have a full-blown tropical storm and hurricane come on shore.
And so when you say people doing their part, first, what does that mean? And secondly, I would have to assume when people do that, then it frees up your resources to help the people truly in need that just can't deal with those situations. Well,
absolutely. If we're having to respond to motorists that have disabled vehicles trying to leave, and again, this is all if we have something that we have time to prepare for, but you want to utilize the resources where you need them, not preventable crashes or vehicles, again, being disabled where law enforcement or first responders have to make contact.
Yeah. So it's expected to be a rather busy hurricane season. Mm-hmm. I pray and hope that that's not the case, that Mississippi and really all the United States are spared. It just seems like we've had our share of natural disasters and natural situations like that to deal with, floods and tornadoes, of course, paramount in our area, and we don't need any hurricanes if we can avoid it. Speaking of which, it is summer, so it's hot. Mm-hmm. And folks are out and about in their vehicles, sort of back to close to normal driving, it seems to me, Major, just looking at the roads. They seem to be sort of pre-pandemic traffic volume levels. We got to be concerned about situations where we're transporting our children often in their car seats, their vehicle seats, strapped in, usually in that back seat.
Correct.
And the risk is, of course, we forget about those children, God forbid, or even more, preventable would be a situation where you think, well, I know the child's back there, but it's just going to be for a couple of minutes. I don't want to go through the process of unstrapping and taking the child with me and then returning them to the seat. You guys deal with this, don't you?
Absolutely. And Gerard, and this is according to noheatstroke.org, since 1998, more than 900 children have died in hot cars. More than half of those children were left behind unknowingly by their caregivers. And this is something that is absolutely preventable. It's something that people don't really put a whole lot of thought into. And in our earlier conversation, I can tell you that the Mississippi Highway Patrol, this is going to be something, along with traffic safety, we're going to push not only during the summer months, but around the year. Because it happens. And again, it's good people make bad decisions all the time. So we're hoping we can give some people today some information to prevent the loss of that child.
And so what would that be? Because this 900 is just mind-boggling to me, honestly, Major. And it's disturbing. And any time, anything like that, it's always bad when you have something like that happen to a human being, but especially a helpless child.
Right. And studies show that forgetting a child in a car is more of a memory problem versus negligence. Okay. And it goes along to what we actually experience in today's society. Let's face it, it's very busy. And what we see when children are left behind in hot cars or forgotten in these cars, it could be a change of routine. If the mother is normally transporting the child to the daycare, and then this one day the father is given that responsibilities, we have to make sure that father remembers. And I know people say, how do you forget? Trust me, it happens.
Yeah.
Stress, sleep deprivation, again, any change in the normal routine. And there are things to prevent that from happening. Number one, for the fathers, put something in the back seat. When you place that child in the child restraint, put something that you have to have, like a briefcase.
Okay.
Anything that you have to go to the back seat. And there's your child. You're not going to forget your child. Again, people say, how do you forget your child if they're in the back seat? If a young infant goes to sleep, for example, on the way to the daycare, and you're involved in a very serious conversation on the phone, things start going on, it's not part of your routine to have your child or be transporting your child to the daycare, you can forget. It has happened. Now, again, what do we do to prevent that? Put something on your dash if you have to remind you your child is in the back seat. If you have any change in the caregiver that's transporting your child, make sure you call that daycare. Call the daycare or wherever the destination, the child's destination, and make sure that they arrived. There's so many things that we can do. Now, that's on the side of when we just forget. Now, there's another side that does fall in the negligent category. And that is something that it's generational. Well, I'm just going to run into the store just for a few minutes. They'll be fine. I'll roll the window down. No, they're not. A car's temperature can rise 20 degrees in 10 minutes. If you have a vehicle that's sitting in the parking lot, Gerard, it's 95 degrees outside. Within 10 minutes, the temperature can rise to 115 degrees inside that vehicle. Now, and think about it. We're talking about children. Their internal body temperature rises a lot faster than the adults do.
Yeah.
And that's where we lose so many.
Wow. And so 900 is a big number. How do we do with respect to this major in Mississippi relative to the other states? Just curious. Are we better, worse, in the middle here?
You know, I'm waiting on those numbers because, as we discussed, I've got something I'd like to do throughout the summer months. So we're going to get those numbers, and I assure you, you will definitely hear about those numbers of what we deal with in Mississippi. Yeah. Again, 900. I'd like to know what they are. From state to state. Again, it's just it's doing the right thing and not having this mentality of they'll be okay if I run in the store because I'm coming right back. That child's internal body temperature, if it reaches 104, they can experience a heat stroke at 107 degrees. It's fatal. It's fatal.
All right, so you got something cooking. What can you tell us today about that?
I can tell you you'll be seeing and hearing things from us about preventative measures when it comes to being distracted. It's not just about being distracted when you're driving. With children being left in cars and hot cars. It's where I'm going with that, with the being distracted. We have to remember that it's a very sad situation to know that we are so distracted that we're leaving children in hot cars and we're losing them. That is totally preventable.
I know it's probably a rhetorical statement, but I sure hope it's not because we're all busy on our phones.
It can happen. It can happen, and we just need those reminders. The children of our state, of our country, they're our future. Yeah, and that should be number one priority.
I totally agree. We do have new technology innovations in later model vehicles that will do some reminding and alarm you.
That's right.
Notify you with audible sounds.
That's right.
So you got to think that that's playing a role, hopefully, and as kind of the vehicles on the road or in use become more current, maybe that can have some impact on that there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Major, always a pleasure having you in the studio, sir, and I look forward to hearing more about this program. Folks, do what the major says there. It's great advice. Just be careful, be cognizant when you're transporting children in those child restraint seats, and make sure you're aware of that. And don't take any chances. Don't take any risks. Thanks for coming on, Major.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
You bet. We'll take a break right here. We'll come back. Don't forget, we got Mississippi Outdoors Radio coming up with the MDWFP panel at 12:05. Stay with us. The JT Show continues.